We'll start now, I guess. I'm the undesignated MC here. I don't know who volunteered me, but...
You are designated.
You're doing good, Larry.
I thought we'd pick another spot where it's better to see the tailings pond. Instead of going further down where all we see is the embankment and we don't really see the cells from a higher view. This is the tailings pond. The turnoff right back up here about less than a quarter mile to Pipeline Canyon Road, right about that area. That's where the northern, that's where the tailings pond cells started, and it ended all the way down to where you see that power pole at the edge, kind of like in the tree, and you look kind of below it, you can see the green portion of the dike outline that kind of goes down. That was the south cell, the north cell, and the third cell, or there was a middle cell here. And the mill site was right behind you guys, where all you can see some of the building structures still sitting there, but most of the structures have been taken down, but the administration building, the warehouse are still visible there. I believe the company that's doing some work here have their office set up in those buildings. But these were cells, and it's been backfilled with mine waste. And right now they look like just nice agricultural fields. But actually they're backfilled. There were cells here. So the mine site was just over the ridge. That's where the shaft, the mine shaft is. And the ore was shipped around where we turned the sharp curve on the highway and unloaded here at the mill site. And that's where they did the separation of the yellow cake and all the soil and all the water to wash it off. All that wastewater was piped underneath the highway. If you guys notice, just a short distance back, there's kind of like a dip in the highway. The wastewater from the mill site was piped under the highway across into these cells. Before the mill was built, there used to be an earthen dam right in this general location. And this one, there was families living back in the canyon below the ridge there for a very long time. Those people were forced to move out. One of the grandsons, he's in his 60s, past his 60s, he said he remembers his grandma still sitting in his hogan, and the bulldozer almost crushed her with her sitting in the hogan. That's how aggressive the mining company was. And that is UNC. So they cleared that whole area. And a lot of these are not natural ground. A lot of them have been cleared down, smoothed out. The tailings pond, back in the July '79, I don't remember how long before that, a week, maybe 2 weeks. I worked at UNC for 8 years. 6 years underground as an underground surveyor, 1 year underground with the geology department, and 1 year as a surface laborer. And one day in July, or maybe at the end of June, I was called up to stay on surface with my supervisor, and we all piled up in the company vehicle, drove on top of the dike here to the end of the pond, there were several people. I noticed several people there in the area going back and forth, and when I stepped off, and that's when I noticed huge cracks in the dam running all the way across several areas, and those cracks were very wide. You couldn't see the bottom, so it went down. I don't know how high the tailings pond were. I'm sure, where's Chris Shuey, my walk-in encyclopedia? He knows all those information. Is he making his way up? So
he's on his way.
Okay. But those cracks were there. My supervisors were at a distance communicating with others. I'm sure it was the mining people, maybe people from Santa Fe with the environment department, but I don't know who they were at that time. They just talked at a distance, so I couldn't hear anything. And after a while, we just got back in the vehicle and went back to the to our office at the mine site. And then every 2 weeks, I had to come in early at be at work at 6 o'clock, 6 to 2, because I had to get there before the shift. The mine was going 24/7. So the day shift was from 8 to 4, evening shift from 4 to 12 midnight. Graveyard shift was from 12 midnight to 8 in the morning, so there was a continuous rotation of the production. I had to come in one day out of every 2 weeks before the shift change, and so I came in. I usually come in about 5:30, go up to the mine site, change my clothes, and go underground. And usually sometimes I'd meet the workers that are getting off shift at 8 o'clock in the morning, because I had to take measurements of all the advancements that the miners had done underground, because the miners got paid by the footage. So all those measurements, guesstimate the volumes of ore piles, and all that time walking through, breathing diesel fuel, mine dust, contaminated water, not drinking it, but if you're walking around under there and you're sweating like a dog, you get some of that sweat into your mouth, into your eyes. So went through that for 7 years underground. But after 8 o'clock, and that's when all the day shift people were coming in about 9 o'clock, and that's when I started hearing people telling each other, "Did you see the dam? Did you see the dam?" But I didn't know what they were talking about. But as the time went by, I just kind of caught some words and what they were talking about. So at 2 o'clock, after 2, 3 o'clock, I was driving back down, and I looked that way, and that's when I saw the huge break in the dam, and it was in the same spot where I seen the huge cracks before that. I just had a bottle of water. So that's what happened there. And so back then I was in my early 20s, so it didn't really cross my mind to be very concerned, because at a young age and no education on what uranium is all about, because it just seems like recently, a few years back, that the community became educated through grassroots organizations, various grassroots organizations, educating the communities and even our elected officials, that we became aware of what uranium, how bad uranium is to your health. So at the time I was in my early 20s, and I just went home, did my business, the mining. There was no shutdown in the mining production after that, because the next day I was back at work and continued as though nothing happened. But did Chris make his way up to the
Yeah.
to the summit here?
He's here, Chris.
Chris was he was a youngster at that time, and he said he was out here the day after.
That was Paul.
Oh, or Paul. Okay, Paul. Where's Paul?